Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Genetic Genius Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Lulu Shimmick. On this week's episode, Damla Aktekin discusses how to heal energetic wounding with regular self healing, crystals, and how tending to the layers of your needs expand to a container for deep trauma healing. Damla is an energetic wound healer, crystal healing teacher, and soul healing writer who helps other self healers move beyond their energetic wounds and shine brighter than they ever thought possible so that they can fully show up in their lives to heal themselves, their families, and their soul tribe. She's the author of life changing daily practice journals, including 40 Days of Gratitude Journal and Crystal Healing, creator of the Chakra Bliss Vault Crystal Healing membership, and the host of the Conversations with Healers podcast. You can find out more about her offerings and take a quiz to determine your energetic wounds and how they show up in your life on her website, adropofom.com.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Genetic Genius Podcast. I am so thrilled to have Damla as my guest today, and welcome.
Oh, so happy to be here. Hi.
Hi, so nice to meet you. And today we're going to be talking all about healing trauma on the DNA level with self-healing, crystals, and more. And I'm so excited for us to deep dive into this conversation.
Definitely.
Yeah. Yay. Before we talk about trauma, which can be deep, but we'll talk about it light too, I'd love for you to introduce yourself to the audience and talk about who you are, what your passion and purpose is.
Yes, absolutely. I am an inner child energetic wound healer, a crystal healing teacher, and a writer. And what I do involves bringing people in touch with their inner landscape and finding out what might be hidden there as unfulfilled divine sparks, if you will. That's the way I see it. I see the inner space of someone as this beautiful inner night where there are millions of little sparks inside. And to me, those represent the inner children, the parts of you that are either unrealized for some reason, or the parts that have a purpose and that are holding on to some clouds and they're hidden there behind the clouds. So my role is I help people go into those cloudy places inside that are remnants of patterns or in it, which are a result of a trauma. So they're not the trauma itself, but those are the types of behavior, the types of thinking that we adapt to function in the world. And I help people unravel that and choose different patterns.
I love that. That's wonderful. I like how you describe it too with the light form, because it's really easy, I think, for people to understand the aspect of light, right? Because it's all around us. Our bodies are light, but we don't always think of it that way, but it's true. And so I think that's a great way to explain it. And in the relationship of trauma, we're going to talk about how that affects the body, the emotional and the physical, the energetic body, because that's really a place where people can relate, I think, a lot.
Yes, and I always start with the physical. That becomes the guidepost. Any sort of discomfort or even numbness, or even you taking your gaze inwards and you're drawn to a place, and that's always the starting point. And then my gift is, through my own healing journey, I discovered I'm clairaudient, clairvoyant. So my gift is to guide people moment to moment with questions, with some visualizations, as well as crystal healing and occasionally sound healing. And there's a way to go about this. By the way, all those little sparks, I call them your inner children, because we do have multiple representations of our potentials stored in our quantum field as our inner children. I don't see the concept of an inner child as something that's wounded in us. What I find again and again in the people that I work with and in myself is there's a part of you that's unchanged by trauma. And that's what I mean by the inner child.
That makes great sense. And we'll talk about that more too, because I think that's an important place that people don't always understand that phrase. And so we'll dive into that a little bit, which will be great. I'd love for us. How did you start to get into the healing work?
Yes, my story is I had two big turning points. I started out my professional career actually in the corporate world. I studied engineering, I did my MBA, and through my corporate career, I woke up one night after spending the day at the office until 10 p.m. and I was in incredible pain, found myself in the emergency room.
Wow.
They performed an erroneous spinal tap, which meant that I had to crawl. If I didn't, there was incredible pain. So
Wow.
life literally brought me to my knees. That was the first. And when that happens, question some things and you look for other things, which is what I did. And I found yoga. So from mind-based existence to now I moved to discovering that I had a body, which I didn't know before. And I became a full-time yoga teacher in that process. I managed a yoga studio. And in 2012, I fell on my face again. This time I became a mom and I had an emergency C-section.
Oh, wow.
I had a beautiful pregnancy, very light, chanting, loving, all that. But the aftermath of the surgery and the demands of the motherhood was really hard. And what I didn't know at the time was I was actually running on empty resource-wise. So everything I hadn't, all the needs of the inner children that I didn't meet were all coming up to the surface. And I said, okay, what do I do now? Nothing I know works. Nothing I know mind-wise works. Nothing I know body-wise works. Like I'm having trouble existing. And I made a commitment to find what works and move towards that. And mantra healing came to my life first. That was something I could do while nursing my child. And then crystals, I stumbled crystals one night. I just saw a YouTube video and I said, okay, this looks interesting. I already knew about chakras. And then I started to lay down with crystals. At first, like very cautiously, I would get a pendulum. I measure my chakras before and after. I would select each and every crystal. And then I quickly realized that I already knew what I was going to select that day or where I was going to place them before picking up the pendulum. So that's how I discovered or how I got in touch with my existing intuition. And the rest of that is as I began to heal and meditate with crystals, I didn't have time to sit down and learn all the details, their mineral makeup, electrical conductivity, none of those. I had a very, very small child in my hands.
You're busy with a baby.
Yeah. And when I did open up a book or look online, it was very confusing because people would say all different sorts of things, which did not make sense to me. So I went into the exploration where I was guided by my intuition. And I found more and more that the more I spent time with crystals, the more relieved I felt. The more I spent time with them, the more connected I felt to my intuition. Like something was shifting very slowly, but it was. And that sort of led me to offering crystal healings one-on-one and in group settings and brought me to where I am now.
I love that. Thank you for giving or talking about your story because it's profound and relatable. I think a lot of women especially have these health crises because they work themselves to the bone, so to speak. And then they don't realize how depleted like you said, that like total fuel tank is depleted. And so having resources is super important. And we're going to talk about how crystals are so important for helping with getting yourself out of the stuckness and out of the empty tank, so to speak.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think you're bringing up a great point because my upbringing was like whatever happens, you keep going. You wake up, you have your breakfast, you go to work. There's no
off switch.
Contemplating.
Right.
Exactly. And also the message was you're strong. Strong means just take it.
Right. You can do anything.
You can do anything. Also, like just take whatever is thrown at you and just suck it up kind of thing. Versus how can you be gentle with yourself? How can you find and move towards things that are light and feeling good for you inside? How can you move towards support? Like support, reaching for support. That wasn't in my vocabulary at all. And how do you make space for explorations and play? What I did with crystals. So that's really important in any healing journey.
Yeah, so important, that support piece. And a lot of people, some people don't have the support system or realize how to ask for it, like you said. And that is a huge piece of self-care, is asking for support, right? Like, I need the support to take time for myself, especially when you're a new mom or you're taking care of your family. You still have to put yourself first.
Something like that. It's, of course, there's a balance. If you have
Right.
a toddler, you still have to watch that they don't kill themselves.
Yes, this is key. Yes, super important. Yes.
But you do also over time realize, like, my level of presence has a lot to do with the level of presence and space and grace I give myself. So
Mm,
that's really important to me right now, to have
yeah.
that element throughout my day,
Hmm.
in whatever capacity that I can. Sometimes it's 2 minutes, sometimes it's an hour long meditation with my crystals,
Hmm.
but it's every time it's very valuable.
Yeah. So good. Yes. I think that meditation is it's one thing I recommend, I would say, most often to patients, even if it's for a few minutes, like you said, a day. You have to have that time for self-reflection and inner work. 100%. And I practice that. I don't, you got to practice what you preach, so to speak, right? Be the mirror. Okay, let's lay some groundwork in for the aspect of trauma, because I think that's an important piece. So starting with trauma. So how does trauma affect the body? Both from that physical layer is super important, but also like from that energetic layer and hindering, let's say, like spiritual growth. I know there's lots of pieces in that question, but I'd love for us to start there so the audience can start to understand, like, how does trauma even affect me?
The way I started this work is, like I said, crystal healing. So people would come to me for crystal healing, and occasionally I also use tuning forks,
Mm-hmm.
and I could feel and sense into your energy field, and I can, like, even before we meet, I have a sense of which chakra symbolically or physically we're going to work with.
Mm-hmm.
And often I see people are, it's really easy for you to figure out where the issue might be.
Mm-hmm.
And they walk me through their sensations. And more often than not, there's a place in the body that sort of holds what you're calling trauma. I tend to describe it as just perhaps an energetic intensity, if you
Mm-hmm.
will.
Yeah.
And just to give you one example, a client came in and she was seeing this huge rock in her heart space, huge rock.
Mm.
And the way I came to the inner children, when someone sees something like that, like this, people usually see it could be a rock, it could be like a metal cage, it could be something icky and yucky. Yeah. So these places that are hard to be with, that's the sort of symbolic language that comes across
Mm.
in the way the image appears in you. And I started to ask these people, okay, you see this rock, how long has it been there? And they would tell me since I was 4 years old, since I was 10 years old. And occasionally someone would tell me since the beginning of time.
Mm-hmm.
So that to me indicates like a longer multi-generational wound. So when someone says, since 4 years old, and I asked them, okay, what do you see in the middle of the rock? And they would see, I see my 4-year-old self.
Mm.
And at that point, at 4 years of age, we don't process things with emotion. Or I should say, I take that back. We don't process things with refined language.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So at 4 years of age, you will rely heavily on your sensations, your imagination, your like symbolic language,
Mm-hmm.
almost like the language of the dreams, as well as the emotions. And then the emotions turn into those things, the sensations and the images. So the 4-year-old in you decided, okay, there is this thing that's dangerous outside of me.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just hide in this rock. So the trauma to me is not necessarily what's happening outside. And what's happening outside may not be registered as traumatic for somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
But for whatever reason, this 4-year-old said, this is dangerous. I'm going to hide inside the rock now. Bye-bye. See you.
Right. Yeah. See you later.
So now here's this adult person who has been carrying this weight, like they can literally feel the weight in their heart.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And then it becomes the journey of First of all, how can we help this person to feel safe? And then how do you communicate with that 4-year-old to help her to open up a little bit, release the rock, and perhaps exist in a meadow, run, where they can feel the sun.
Mm-hmm.
And also this person with the rock, let's say they're trying to reach a professional goal or a relationship goal. They want to run towards an opportunity. How can you run when you're carrying a boulder in your body?
And not very well.
And the moment we're able to connect with the inner child, and they might have a message, or more often than not, like just your loving gaze is enough with the right guidance and space holding for them to release. And the person physically feels their body like,
lighter.
Exactly. And then I'm faced with the question, does the boulder come back? Yeah, it can. That's what you've known.
Right.
You need to be vigilant with sensing and feeling into your body and getting help when you need.
So does it create a pattern of memory when you have, so you said that it can easily come back, or possibly when you have this, let's say this rock or this experience, this memory of something that's happening that you've created a blockage. How easily is that memory released, that blockage? Does it all depend on the person and what level they have, how long they've been holding on to it, how traumatic the experience was, how easily they can let stuff go? All of those variables come into play.
Yes. And also the way I picture it is, so we're creatures and our chakras as rotating wheels. Also, we wake up in the morning, our chakras are like a little slower, and then they open up and they rotate more. It's like almost like a flower opening. And then towards the evening, it's going to slow down and close a little bit. Let's say you're open, you're walking on the street, like someone breaks, and then you're like, you close a little bit, and then you're like, okay, we're fine, open. The problem is when something happens very early, you get stuck in that closed position in certain areas of your energy system and in your body. That becomes, you need a certain amount of energy to keep those holding patterns in place. And that's energy that you're not able to spend elsewhere in your system. And that's also preventing you from enjoying what's here. So when you do the work, the inner child healing work, the idea isn't to have you all open all the time. The idea is for you to find that resilience so that your system knows naturally when to open and when to close, to be in this beautiful dance that you're not stuck. And some people are stuck in here in the open, like the excessive use of the throat chakra, for instance. Some people talk. That's how they try to
have an off switch.
Exactly. Sometimes you need to go in a little bit and then out. There's a balance in all of this. I don't know. Did I answer your question? I forgot what the answer was.
Yes, no, that was great. That was great. The other piece of it was I was asking about, does it hinder our spiritual growth? So if we have, let's say, for instance, we're working in a space and time and we're trying to accelerate our spiritual growth to reach the next level of growth, does it hold us back when we're trying to reach that next level?
Depends on how you define spiritual growth, doesn't it?
Right. Yes, that's true. Yeah.
If you define spiritual growth as being open all the time, yes, it does. But to me, spiritual growth is enlarging your container enough to hold all of it.
Yeah, that's great.
So when you're closed and constricted, you can't hold, like you don't have the capacity to hold your clouds. When you enlarge, when you tend to your nervous system, you're going to create a container in your body and in your life for you to be able to look at things. You're like, oh, okay, this is swimming here. That's fine. Versus if my container is like tiny, I can only swim maybe like one rubber duck.
That's a small amount.
A small amount, and everything's gonna splash over.
You want to have a bigger pool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. What about limiting beliefs? Do you think that, or from working with your clients, when you have this pattern or situation, this rock, this traumatic, energetic thing within you, does that create a limiting belief, or do we create a limiting belief based upon that perspective?
A limiting belief, again, is an energetic construct, and any energetic construct you have created in your energy system will have a reflection in your body. If it does have a reflection in your body, we can work with it. And if it does have a reflection in your body, chances are there is an inner spark hidden in it as well. What I find in connecting with people is that even before they come to the session, like I mentioned, there are so many possibilities we could explore, and there are so many traumas or wounds that you could explore too. This is very intelligent. So even before we connect, people tell me, I've been feeling this sensation in this part of my body. So I already know that's where we're going to go. And a particular wound and a particular inner child usually comes forward because that's the one that's going to give you the most relief. So in that sense, your system is very intelligent. And there is I don't want to say like an order, but there's definitely a prioritization going on when it comes to these things coming up. And anything I tell people, anything that we work with is what you are ready, willing, and able to look at today.
Right.
And in the next session that we might go deeper or look at a different wound or look at the same wound in a different way. But it's an exploration. And my job is to trust the process and help you trust it as well.
Yeah, trust is key in healing. And from something that you just said, are the experiences, what's a good way to say it, multi-layered, faceted, if you have, or more like an onion. So if you're experiencing and letting go of one specific experience that has made this kind of like imprint, then do you need to release more than one thing for that to be able to release? Or is it more, okay, this is released and I can just start on that next piece and release that? Does that make sense? Does it have to be because you said there was a little bit of priority. I'm just wondering if is it a priority in the place of healing, or is it more random?
No, great question. It really depends. More often than not, there are layers, and the layers might be the immediate thing. That you might be holding on to some patterns from your caregivers or even from your ancestors. And then like one layer might be related to how you see yourself. The other layer might be related to how others see you. There's so many possibilities.
Right.
It really depends on your level of commitment. Like we could do one session and you're going to feel great. And then I tell people, if we work together for 3 sessions, we can look at the same wound, the same energy constriction, and really dislodge it, because we're looking at it from here, all from different angles. And then if you commit to something like 10 sessions, I can already tell you that's going to be life-changing. Like that level of support, that level of commitment to your healing, and your inner children know. They're like, ooh, she nice. I like this. Bring up all the stuff you haven't looked at in years.
Right, that you've had on the dusty old shelf.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. And when you're describing it in my mind, I see this like brilliant diamond with all these different, facets where we're like, okay, so this facet is dirty and needs to be cleaned off for us to be able to see and shine. And then then another one is exposed on the other side for all these different layers to start to unfold.
Yeah, something like that.
Let's talk about the cells and how they're affected. So when you're in this place of, I know you mentioned earlier that the trauma isn't the exact word. So now in my mind, I'm like rephrasing it, but we're in this place of woundedness. You've been wounded. How does that affect our cells physically or not? And then do you think so when we come through into our soul being, we're in this genetic blueprint place of, okay, this is you, is that, and we, even before that soul comes in, we have the conception phase. And so in that phase, is that even part of that cellular change where that wounding can take place? And does it affect us at such that early place in time?
Okay, couple things there.
I know my questions are multifaceted.
So I think I see where you're coming from. I don't think of myself in cells. I think of myself and bodies I work and partner with is in vibration.
Right.
So,
Energetic vibration.
yeah. So when I look at someone, what I am picturing is, okay, what's underneath the molecular structure? Yes, the cells. What's
Right.
underneath that? Atoms. Underneath that, subatomic particles. Underneath that, were strings of light that come in and out of existence.
Right.
According
Photons
to
of light.
yeah, according to the string theory now in physics. So then if you were to see yourself as this solid structure, that's very hard to change.
Right. Yeah.
But if you're strings of light coming in and out of existence, and you have the ability to change that through your consciousness and intention, that's a whole other different story.
Right. Yeah.
When we come in, what you're asking is, as we come into the room, you're like, what's happening? Are we coming in like conditioned to be wounded? Like, are we coming in with wounds?
Right. Yeah. And that when our soul comes in with a purpose, correct? And so within that, when that purpose, we're choosing our mother, that womb, wounded womb, or whatever. Hopefully it's that one. We're choosing this place to come into to express ourselves as the ultimate joyous person that we can be. So in that place, when we're our cellular being of light that we are, when is that woundedness take place? Can that take place in that very beginning of even the conception, when the egg meet the sperm, in that place and time? Or can it be through lots of space and time within the being?
Again, I don't see myself as, yes, this body starts there, but in my mind, I'm part of a continuum. There's past,
right,
parallel realities, and the future.
Mm-hmm.
There's also in me, in my DNA, my ancestors continuing to live.
Right.
So yes, with that first cell division, with that DNA, there's a transfer of a little bit of wounding. Yes.
Mm-hmm. The genetic lineage of wounding comes through at that point in time.
It's the way I see it is this. Again, if I come back to, we're vibrational, what else are we? We are minerals. Our bones are 65% or more minerals.
Mm-hmm.
There is water in our bodies, which is a liquid mineral. The fascia is shaped like the inside of a quartz crystal and holds and transmits electricity, just a quartz crystal.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, there's a lot of intelligence even before the DNA in just the makeup of the little minerals. And the minerals have been around for millennia and millennia. They have an immense storage of memory and wisdom.
Yeah.
So in terms of how choice plays into that, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, I was just curious. I'm always so curious about our DNA, how we form, what energy comes from, what we bring in through our ancestors. And to me, that's like fascinating, because I think there's both sides of the coin. I feel like one aspect, we have all of this genetic heritage behind us that we can bring in, that some people say that we're always having to deal with our past generations and moving through this woundedness that's happened all in our lifetime. Okay. And then the other part, he says, why can't we have a clean slate? Right? Why can't it be like us in the moment, us in the being, the individual experiencing their own life form? In my mind, I go back and forth for that scientific, spiritual sim.
In every moment you do. It takes a while to get to that point, but we do.
Yeah, totally. Yes. Yes, you're right. When you've talked a lot about working with the inner child, and I'd love for you to explain, what does that mean, so that our listeners could, so I think some people don't understand what that means exactly. What is that part of ourselves? Are we one inner child, or is it different places in time, on, like you said, in that quantum physics, that past, present, future, where this child of being needs to be handheld through and loved?
I don't see us having one inner child. That hasn't been my experience.
Multiple.
Yeah, in my inner journey, like I said, who needs and wants to come forth is going to come forth.
And this is like with a being within you, so to speak, like a little part of yourself on the inside. Is that how you would describe that? What's the inner child?
Remember that inner sky that I described?
Yes.
With the millions of little sparks. So imagine your like quantum inner landscape. Your children are like your perfect, purposeful beings or potentials at any given moment.
Love that. Yeah, that's a great explanation.
So I don't see, and some people do the opposite, but I don't see the inner child as being wounded or broken. I
Right.
see the patterns that they may have taken on, like the clouds in that sky, but that's not the sky itself. There's definitely a spark underneath and within. It may take a while to get there, but there's a potential there. So there's one thing. So they hold infinite potential. The other thing they hold is they're pretty good with keeping track of things. They're like, okay, this pattern worked. They're very survivalist. So they're going to be like, okay, I'm this little light here. I'm going to put this rock around me, put this cloud around me, because that seems to have worked. Like, I'm going to close my heart. And then your job becomes connecting with them and offering them other possibilities and opportunities. As the inner children of ancestors, or even as your inner children, they might carry a message for you. They're very wise. They're also very pragmatic. They are also very relational. The way that a child survives is through relationship. They demand attention. Or they get,
Right.
they need attention. So there's a very, like a two-sidedness to it. They are, I feel like they're these pieces of your soul that are wanting and longing and waiting to connect with you.
That's beautiful. That kind of ignition, or to ignite that connection and relationship. Yeah, that's great. I love that, because that's part of that spiritual growth journey, when we're like, oh, wow. You feel that spark within you ignited when you're like, you're on the right path of that. In that moment, it's like that whole clarity, joy with every cell of your being. Woohoo! You feel so good.
And what if that one little light in you, instead of hiding behind a cloud, is able to shine now? I can guarantee you can feel that in your cells, and you can feel like it in every aspect of your body. Another way to work with the inner children is to say, okay, I have this financial goal, this relationship goal. What in me needs to release and evolve or change for me to get there? So that's another intentional way that we can work on that connection.
Actually, with that, setting that intention is a key part of healing, I think, because sometimes you can have just an energetic session or healing session where you might not have a general intention. Maybe it's more just, okay, I just want to have an overall like healing session. But I think when you set that intention where you're going forward, it's profound, right? Because you have an intention, and it sets the intention for the healer as well, for that connection. And then it helps you to dive deeper.
Yeah, I agree and I disagree. In the way that I agree with you, it can be powerful to have an intention. It can also be incredibly gratifying to come in and say, you know what, I'm going to leave it up to the intelligence of my inner.
Right. Exactly.
Whatever needs to come up may come up. And that's inevitably going to help you in whatever goal you're working on.
Right. Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, that's sometimes I'll do that when I'm getting energy work or healing work. And acupuncturist, she always asks me, so what would you like to work on today? I'm like, I don't have a goal. Like today, I just want to receive. And that is so powerful for me too, because it also takes me out of that place of that control piece, which sometimes I don't need to be in the driver's seat in the healing. Let's switch our conversation over to crystals, because I want to make sure we talk about crystal healing, because it's such a big part of you and what you do. And I love them myself. And what is crystal therapy? You talked a little bit about it in the beginning. How does it work with like on the basic healing level? So let's say, for instance, maybe you could pick a stone, a crystal that's most people know about. I don't know, rose quartz, you pick, and then talk about how like the properties of that can be used for that basic healing level, so people can understand what that looks like.
Yeah, my relationship with crystals evolved from a place of need, as I explained earlier.
Right. Yes. I need you.
Yeah, I was in a place where I needed to find relief. But even then, I never approached them saying, this is what you need to get me. This is where I have to get to by the end of this 10 minutes staying with you.
Or the end of your lifetime.
And they were new, they were shiny. They were like little light sparks I could touch outside of myself at a time when I couldn't feel into the light sparks inside of me. They were things I could hold with reverence and love when I couldn't hold my body in reverence and love. So they became the conduit for me to love myself. They became these beautiful things that I could build a relationship with. So I didn't approach it saying, okay, here you are, Rose Crystal. What can you do for me? What can I use you for?
Yeah.
And I hear that you can only go to the heart.
Yeah. No, they're just like herbs. And people always ask me, what's the best herb for blah, 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 blah. I'm like, herbs don't have one purpose. That's not why they're put on the planet. They don't have, oh, I'm going to help you with XYZ. I'm going to help you with your circulation. It's because they've been used over time in that way. And that's the kind of the other part of it. It's been forgotten. And listening to the herbs, communicating with the plant medicine allows that old message. One, I feel like that lost message that's deep within the herbal kingdom, that plant medicine can become forward. And that's how I feel about crystals too. It's like they have so much to offer us and so much to give us if we listen and let them help us in whatever way they want to.
Yeah. And it's like you say, like plants, it's vibrational medicine.
Exactly.
Whatever you're drawn to is good for you. I mean, with plants, you might have to be a little bit more careful.
Right. Maybe not ingesting it if it's poison.
Right.
Yes. But you can use them in a different way. You can have it in your home setting. You can have it in your garden. You can still appreciate a plant without having to ingest it because it has that vibrational level, right? Just by being in its presence, or even you don't even have to be in its presence. You can still connect to it with that DNA of that plant anywhere you are at any moment in time.
Yeah. So our DNA, we were talking about how it has crystalline properties. So do crystals. So the more I spent time with crystals, I realized that they're not only our ancestors, they're literally your building blocks of the flesh that you have and the bone. They are connectors. So anything you can imagine that you want to connect with, which has a DNA, which has some sort of a crystalline element, which wood does, any plant does, animals do, other people do. So you can connect through the help of crystals. You can also connect to the subtle realms of possibilities. I like to connect to my creative radio channel where I might get the next ideas for my next writing project or whatever I'm working on. So it becomes an exploration and it becomes a relationship. It's not like you're going to a pharmacy and someone is, this is what you need. No, it's you going into nature or going into a store and saying, here I am, this is me energetically. And here you are energetically. You introduce yourself, you let them introduce themselves. And then maybe you gently pick them up and you feel into that if there's a connection or not. And if there isn't, you gently place them down. There's always an element of respect. And I always tell people, even when picking up a crystal from a crystal store, always ask for permission. May I please take you home? Would you be open to going into a co-creative exploration with me? And you can feel that. And then the same way, when you are sitting and exploring with them, it doesn't have to be that they go to a certain place. They can go to all sorts of places on or around your body. And I created a journal for this called Crystal Healing Journal. And one of the questions I teach people to ask there is, where do you love to go? You ask to the crystal and then you listen and feel into the answer. And you also ask, what other crystals do you like around you today? And you show love, you show respect, you show reverence, and then the magic happens. Because any type of love, reverence, and respect you show is going to come back to you thousandfold. That's what they do. They take in the information and they amplify, they cohere it through their molecular structure, they amplify it. And then sometimes they can help you focus it. Yeah. And sometimes people talk about clearing the crystal. And I do teach that. You can use sage smoke, you can use moonlight, whatever. But what clears the crystal isn't the sage smoke. It's your intention. It's your approach. It's your reverence.
Yeah, your intention, like we were talking about, so important. What about making crystal grids? Is that something that you use in your practice with your self practice and then with your clients? And do you create crystal grids with an intention?
I have created once or twice for me. But again, like if this is your way of relationship cultivating, by all means, do it. But to cultivate a relationship, you only need one crystal.
Right. Not
You usually need like at least 10 or 15
to create.
That's a different type of, and you can work with the collective energy of those crystals, definitely. But then is that I would personally spend time with each of those crystals before I put them in a grid.
Or setting your intention individually and then asking them, like you said, about co-creating something of intention for all of those together.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. What about, I know you said intention for setting the intention. I was just wondering about grief in that space of, that we've talked a lot about today for woundingness or releasing wound. And I know that the planet's been in a place of releasing over the past 2 years, and a lot of grief that I have witnessed with my patients and also around me, people releasing the place of the planet, the loss in general, also just a place of newness, accepting and receiving as well. And are there specific crystals that can be helpful for this transition time period?
Yeah, any crystals you choose to connect with would be helpful. I'm not in the habit of telling people what to do. I think I don't like going between you and your soul and the soul of the crystal. You're
like, no,
that's not what I do. And I do have an online course actually that's free. It's a mini online course on my website called Crystal Healing Myths. And that's my philosophy. You don't have to have it, but that's how
No, that's great. I'm just curious.
Grief is complex. But again, my philosophy with any big emotion is not to get rid of the emotion, but how can I make my container big?
Yeah, like you were talking about before, that's really important, especially in this place where we're learning a new way to exist. Right? Because the planet is still changing. It has been changing for the past 2 years, and we're going to continue to change and evolve at a much quicker rate. We're seeing that. It sounds like in general, crystals can be really helpful for that. But listeners out there should. So if you don't have, let's say you've never used crystals before, like you when you first started. So the best way to do that would be to go into a store. And what if you don't even you're not even in tune with yourself enough to know? Because some people are at that level. They're just waking up. Their intuition is just a little seed that they're starting to flower. And how can they listen to that guidance? What would be that suggestion there?
Okay, let's come back to the expanding your container part.
Yeah, that's a good place.
At the beginning of the pandemic, I was very disheveled, as we all were. And I started to realize I wasn't even like coming back to the things I knew, which, healing and EFT tapping. Those are the things I do daily. But I was so like in the chaos, I wasn't going to those places. And I decided to create a container for that. I created an online crystal healing membership. And this is a place where I post 3 new crystal healings a month. One of them is a mini healing, 5 or 10 minutes. We all have that amount of
hopefully you do.
Exactly. And one of them is a 30-minute healing and clearing for you and the physical space you find yourself in. And you can add a lot of different intentions to it. You can add receiving dream guidance, you can deepening your intuition, receiving any energies you need at that time. And then the last one is longer. I do like a 45-minute specific wound healing intention. And the moment you become a member in Chakra Bliss Vault, you get access to all my healing library, all the recorded healings. And the healings are silent. The healings there's a small intro, small outro, and then there's soothing music.
Mm-hmm.
And all of the healings are crystal healings with the crystals that I've intuitively selected for you.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the members choose to partner with the crystals that they have during the session, which you're welcome to. But you don't even have to, because I already have in the recording, I have crystals for you. And now I tell people the way I see crystal healing is I see each and every individual as liquid crystals, mostly liquid crystals. So any type of meditation you do, any type of contemplation you do, the nature walks that you do, those are all crystal healings. And at any point in time, you're taking an energy, you're making sense of it, and then you're giving it out. I'm not too hung up on you need this many crystals to to receive and experience crystal healing. But that would be a great resource for someone who's just starting out, because all you need to do is just an openness to experience and to be in the safe container. And that begins to change your nervous system. That begins to rewire you for expecting expandedness during those 5 minutes, and then the next day, and then the next day. And that carries out into the world. And in my experience, if you continue with a practice like that, that definitely will deepen your practice. And there are multiple research studies that show the same.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's great. And we will post those links in the notes and on the page on my website, so that way our listeners can find those really easy. And those are great. And what are some wonderful self-healing like tips for self-care? Because I know that self-care is so important right now. You've mentioned some of them, expanding the container, drinking water. What would be some of your best takeaway for self-care? Because I know how important that is during this time in general, like all the time, not just in this time. Self-care to me is the one most important thing that we can do for ourselves and for everyone around us.
Gentleness. And noticing how you're treating others. The others include the pen you're holding, the mug, how you're treating the dishwasher. And when you notice that you're not particularly kind, again, you bring gentleness and you bring reverence to the object, which inevitably brings it towards you. You bring the same gentleness into your life when you look at yourself in the mirror, because you are a crystal. You are absorbing your intentions at every moment. You're absorbing the words you speak as vibration into your bones, speaking in a way that delights your soul and the souls of the people around you. And checking in always, like, where can I use more gentleness? Where can I use more softness? And if it's not available to you to get to a gentle place with regards to certain things, get help.
Reach out and get help. Yeah. And there's lots of resources for that. I like what you said earlier about meditation. That's a really great place, I think, to go to for that gentleness, right? That self-love place, in that place. If you can have gentleness with yourself, that self-forgiving, self-love, just, hey, today's a new day. Let go of anything from yesterday or the past and be in the new place and moment in time. I think that really is helpful too.
Yeah.
Let's talk about some of the great things that you have to offer. And you mentioned your Chakra Bliss Vault, and that's your crystal healing membership. And is there a group healing aspect of that too? Is that individualized? Do people come together and meet together as a group, or is it just more things that they receive? What's the membership like?
They're currently
Recorded group healings.
Yeah, within the membership, I have these little mini videos where I guide you through what to expect and some aspects of crystal healing. If you wanted to go deeper into how and why crystal healing works and experience like guided meditations, I have an online course called Crystal Healing Simplified. So that's a lot more in depth. I do actually teach how to intuitively find the crystals that are for you, and how to clear them, how to be with them, and my favorite ways of connecting with them through, like I said, 9 different guided meditations. So that's one. And I do have a mini course, as I mentioned, called Crystal Healing Myths. That's free on my website at dropofom.com. adropofom.com. And yeah, enjoy. This is only going to work if you enjoy and if you experience. It's like eating chocolate. You won't know what it tastes like
until you try it.
Exactly. So I would say be open to it, be playful. It's a very subtle, very gentle medicine in the sense of like vibrationally potent thing that can help you shift things. That's what I mean by the word medicine.
Yeah, vibrational medicine is the wave. It is the future of our medicine. That's where we have true healing take place because our bodies are vibration and energy completely.
Yes.
So when we use vibrational medicine, we're able to move, transform, and heal at a much like a magnified quantity, right? This massive amount that we wouldn't ever be able to understand or expect because our bodies can relate a different way.
I think at this point in time, we're rediscovering who and what we are.
Mm-hmm.
Who and what we are is geometry. Who and what we are is crystalline structures. Who and what we are is lots of beautiful, tiny potential lights inside. Who and what we are is beautiful. And I do feel crystals are here to remind us of that.
Oh yeah, totally. Yes. Wonderful. And the freebie, another freebie that you have is the energetic wounds quiz. And that they can also find that on the website. And I'll put the link for that as well. And that's a way for them to, what is that about? The energetic wounds quiz?
Yeah. So it's a 12-question quiz that'll give you an idea of what your clouds, what might be that you're still hanging on to in your system, knowingly or unknowingly. So that becomes the starting point.
Okay, great. So that's a great place for someone to open the doorway to understanding about the energetic wounds, or just as a good doorway. So
I do go about it gently. I know it can be hard to look at these things. I even have an EFT tapping that you can do after you do.
Nice. Oh, great.
Because it's a bit like opening the Pandora's box, definitely.
Right. Yes. You want to be ready. You want to have your tools, your crystal friends to help you in the process, which is super important. Oh, great. Okay. I think, Don, we talked about everything today. We talked about so many wonderful things in relationship to healing and crystals. And I have one wonderful last question for you today. If you had this unlimited budget, what would you do right now to make the biggest impact on the planet?
Yeah, easy. I would support mothers.
Love that. Yeah, so needed. So needed. I know during the pandemic, I felt that kind of need for the children, especially that were just isolated and didn't have the resources that they would have been depending on. We have such a rich place, so many resources. We just need to make them available for everyone.
Yeah. If the mothers are supported, if the mothers are resourced in their inner realm and in their outer realm, if the mothers have the time and availability to become conscious, then they raise conscious children who then raise even more conscious children.
Totally. Yes. Thank you so much for joining the conversation today. I loved our talk and I can't wait to share it with the world.
My pleasure. And thank you for doing what you do. I know there's a lot that goes into it. I have a podcast too called Conversations with Healers. People don't realize like how much love goes into this. So thank you so much.
Oh, you're so welcome. And yeah, so how can people find you? You mentioned your website, but let's just make sure we talk about your social media so people can find you there as well. And your YouTube channel is great. So that's a great place to go too.
Yeah, I'm on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook with the same handle, a drop of om. And I'm pretty available there. If you need to ask me a question about crystals, feel free to send me a DM. And my website has a lot of resources, not just in the free resources, but my blog has been going on for years and years now. So that might be another place that people find inner child and wound healing inspiration.
Oh, great. Wonderful. Thanks again so much for joining us today.
Pleasure.